y'all, it's the Cute Coffee Gal, and I'm back with another speed build on my channel. Today I am doing a really fun speed build, or at least it was fun for me. Today I did a build of the Willow Creek Library. So, where did I get this idea from? As you may know from other videos I've done on my channel, one of the things that I really enjoy about the Sims website, the actual, official EA website, is that they have the Sims forums, and in the forums there are lots of different challenges and opportunities to connect with other Simmers, and one of the things that I have done quite a bit in the past, or I'm doing more and more of, I should say, is there is a build challenge thread. I think they're on, I want to say week 136 or something like that. So it's been going on for quite some time. But the challenge is, it's a weekly challenge, and it is to upload a specific room onto the gallery that meets the theme of the week. So the theme for this week's challenge was actually, it was not a library because this is specifically a room challenge. I just turned it into a full build. The challenge was for a book lover's room, for a little book club to meet in. So kind of the idea was that in Willow Creek, there is the Willow Creek Book Lovers Club, and they like to get together and discuss books and things like that. And they wanted to have a regular place to hang out that has a place for them to get some drinks, some coffee and tea and whatnot, and also has a little corner for their children whenever they're meeting so that the kids can play. So that was the general idea. And I thought, that was kind of fun and would definitely be an interesting build for me to do. I've never built a cafe or anything, and so that would be different. But I really wanted to take it a step further, and so I actually built the whole library. And so I have the room that is part of the challenge, but then I also, on the gallery, I have uploaded the full lot as well. And so that's what this build is I'm showing you the lot. So right now I am working on the little cafe area. Like I said, I've never built a cafe before in The Sims, and I actually had a little bit of trouble at first. Since I've not done it before, when I was play testing this lot, I didn't know how to get the barista to start serving things. So I figured it out, but it took me a minute. So, but anyway, so that is what the first little corner that I started off with. And you'll also notice that I almost immediately put a ton of windows up. And there really are, I'd say, more windows than wall things in this particular build. I picked a lot in Willow Creek that I personally love. It's got all of those trees along the side, and you'll see a little bit later kind of the great view out those windows. But one of the things that I really appreciate about something like a library is when there are a lot of windows, because I think when you're in a library, it's so easy to get into the books and to pay attention to whatever you're reading or studying, and you totally lose track of time. And so when you have a library that's really, really dark and doesn't have any windows, you have no concept of where you are or when it is or anything like that. So when there are a lot of windows, I think that gives you an opportunity to, know what time of day it is. And also when there's a great view, it gives you something to look at. So if you're at the library to do something like writing, then it gives you something to look at for some inspiration. So that's why I built so many windows, and I'll add even more after this. Right now, what you see is I'm kind of moving the lot around because I had the idea, again, things I've not done before, to put the little food stalls from the city here on the side of the library. So the thought process was, and there are a lot of public places that do this, the library is a popular place that a lot of people from the community hang out. And so they have set up a little row of food stalls, or in my head, they're food trucks, that like to come by on to the library, so that the library doesn't necessarily have to offer food to people, but people have access to food, so they're more likely to stay at the library longer if they can just real quick pop out and grab something to eat if they need it. So that's what I did along the side. Right now I'm working on the bathrooms. I wasn't quite sure how big I wanted to make them, and I wound up making them quite small, actually. I put 4 bathrooms there on the side, and they're each just little small. There's the toilet, there's the sink, and a mirror, and that's about it. So having just those little itty bitty spots there so that they're kind of on site, but tucked out of the way, not a main feature, because who wants the bathrooms to be the main feature? But it is a rather large library, and so I didn't want to just have 1 or 2 bathrooms. I wanted there to be enough that people would not be constantly tripping over each other because, and this was true, as I was playtesting it, a lot of Sims showed up at the library, which was great. Really fun to get to watch them. And so you can kind of see this starting to show up as more items are being placed. I went with kind of an interesting color palette for this particular build. I wound up doing red brick interior and exterior, so it has that kind of more industrial, I guess you could say, vibe to it. But the colors in the build itself, I really went with kind of black and white and gray for most of it, which is unusual for me. If you're familiar with the other speed builds on my channel, you'll know that color is a really big thing for me. I love using lots of fun, bright colors, but I thought I'd challenge myself this time, and I did go with more of a kind of neutral tones, if you will. But I did have some pops of color here and there, and I think that they look really great because they're standing out on the kind of black and white and gray background. So once I got the brick up, the cafe really actually started to like take shape in my mind. And I've thought about it first just having a half wall. I knew I would have to close it off in order to upload the room to the gallery. But then I decided that I actually kind of liked the idea of having 2 separate rooms so that they could have music and people could be, chit-chatting and the sound of the espresso machine going and the kids playing in the corner and all of that going on would not disturb the people in the actual library space. So that is what I wound up doing. I used this really fun tree house. It's a doll house, but it looks like a tree house. From the that's from the toddler pack. And of course, as soon as I play tested it, I immediately had a sim that went over and destroyed it, which is why I don't usually use them, but it just looked so cute I couldn't not use it in this particular build. And I wanted to create a fun outdoor patio area. You'll see here that I've got that easel over on the side for a little street sale. I actually wound up deleting that. It didn't feel quite right given the rest of the build once I got done with it. And I knew I wanted to add some chessboards somewhere, and so I decided to put them outside. I thought that would be kind of fun. So you'll see that change later on. And I put all of these toys up on the shelves. I'm not even sure why I did it, because I know that as soon as a sim gets in there and starts using it, they're going to immediately put all of those toys in the toy box, but oh well. I figured I'd start it with that at least. I actually saw somewhere, I saw somewhere online that somebody had made a mod that actually turned a lot of the toy items into decor items so that you could place them on the shelf and they wouldn't put them away. And I haven't completely decided against downloading that. That actually might be really appealing for me, so I'll have to dig back around and see where I found that. One of the things that I had a hard time with, as you see, I put down bricks initially for the patio, and I really wish that I could have kept bricks there. But the bricks that are on the stairs, like the pattern that is on the staircase, and the floor patterns that are available, the bricks don't match, and so it just looks weird. So I wound up going with a stone instead. So this is where I'm adding in the rest of that wall so that we could separate the rooms. And I started figuring out what I wanted in this little corner, and it occurred to me that while parents were watching their kids play, they would probably want a comfy area to sit. They may sit over in the cafe and actually, have a little something to eat or drink over there, or they might just want to sit on the sofa with the kids, and so that's what I did. And I, again, was trying to go with those same kind of more neutral black and white feel to the color. And one of the things that I purposefully did in this build is I made the walls be the extra tall walls because I wanted the big windows, but that created a unique challenge as far as what do I put on the walls. As you can see, I've got that really big painting behind the sofa, and there's still a ton of wall space left. So I wound up using some shadow boxes all over the place, and it created a really unique look that I kind of like. I wish I'd had a little bit more variety because it kind of was the same thing over and over again. But I did like the overall aesthetic that it created. So just something, again, that's very different from what I've done before. And these stacks of books that I'm pulling out now are, they're part of the Show Hidden Objects menu, the debug menu, which I've known existed and I've used a couple of times before, but I've not really dug in deep onto that menu and seeing all the items that you can place. Again, I'm still kind of challenging myself with builds, and so that was one of the things that I did with this particular build was I did use several items from that menu, and I felt like it really added another piece to the build that I wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to use. So, but what I'm doing here is creating this little display with all of these book stacks. The thought process being at a library, lots of times when you walk in, there's a table that's there and it's got like the librarian's recommendations or the things that they are recommending people read right now or recent releases, new to the library, you know, that kind of an idea. So I thought that if the book club meets in this little cafe area, that having the recommendations out there where they could chat about them would be a good idea. And then that way, when you actually went into the library itself, that was not something that, you know, those conversations would have stopped already. As I'm talking about this, I'm realizing I did not create like a circulation desk or a librarian's desk in the library. Primarily because, you know, the library is a concept, not an actual actionable thing in The Sims. So you could probably add one of those in if you wanted to do that. I personally don't think it really takes anything away to not have it. But, you know, that's something that you might be able to add if you wanted to. And I did create that little pathway from the main front door into the door that goes into the library because I wanted it to be clear that this is not the library. This was the front room that goes into the library, and so people could keep on walking if that was what they wanted. And that big frame that I kind of was just adjusting, that's actually the wall mural that you can have a sim come in and paint. And so throughout the build, it looks like that frame, but I actually, before I uploaded to the gallery, I did have a sim go in and start making a mural. So there's a partially finished mural that I uploaded when I uploaded to the gallery. I'm pretty sure that that will stay like that when you download it yourself. So you could either leave it as kind of a partially finished mural for aesthetic value, or if you wanted to scrap it and then have one of your Sims create a mural, that's fine too. I'm 99% sure that it'll work that way whenever you download it from the gallery. So, and I realized that the building was just a teensy bit too long, so here I am pulling it all in, kind of making it nice and tight, and then of course having to rearrange everything around that. In the corner, you might be able to see it there next to the bathrooms. I did put a vending machine. I thought that that's something that a lot of libraries do have, is a vending machine so that people could go and grab something real quick and cheap. But I thought I didn't really want it to be out in the cafe area because you want people to buy from the cafe area. But I also didn't want it to like be right in the middle of the library, so it's kind of tucked back up in that corner. That felt pretty realistic to me. And here I am, like I said, playing with what I could put on the walls. You can see above the bookcases there on the right, I have more of the shadow boxes that are on the other side. And then here I decided I wanted to use those kind of big art pieces, but then it didn't look right with the doors. So I had to kind of rearrange a couple of the bathrooms in order to get the art to look right on the other side. So that's kind of what I'm going through and doing right now. But I did like the look that it created in the end. Excuse me, I've got a tickle in my throat today, guys. So one of the things that I also then needed to do was figure out the wall space, and so I had some of these shorter bookcases in addition to the larger ones that you see on the other wall, just trying to create some different kind of looks and levels. One of the things I had a hard time with, in case you can't tell, was zooming in enough to get something onto a wall from behind the mirror. So I wound up like deleting the window. I wound up deleting the window and the wall and then putting something there, and then I had to rebuild it back again. That happened a couple of times. It happened, I think, with the bathrooms too, when I was trying to get a little art in there. Yeah, that's what I'm working on right here, is trying to figure out, you know, again, really tall walls, what do we put up there? Because it wouldn't just be empty, I wouldn't think. So I wound up going with, there's a set of, I think they're posters technically, that are here they're like the historical posters, and there were 4 of them. So I said, you know what, that works. We'll just do that. And if it's historical for Sims purposes, great. So that is what I wound up putting there. And I did tile those bathroom floors. They're not done yet, as you can see right here, but I do wind up tiling them. And then I was kind of thinking through, all right, now that the building has gotten a little bit shorter, I kind of need to rearrange the things on the outside. So I was really figuring out the spacing on these food stalls. I wanted them to look very intentional, not haphazard. And so that's kind of what I was doing there. And then it occurred to me I also had some space in the back, and I wasn't sure what to do with that. So you may have noticed I keep changing the lot type. So I started off as a library, and then I went to a cafe, then I went to a park. Basically what I was doing there was figuring out what the requirements were for each of those different kinds of lots. And so this lot, I have uploaded it as a library, and that's the way I've got it in my game. But you could use it as a park or as a cafe. It also meets the requirements for either of those lot types. So if for some reason you needed it to be a different lot type than a library, you can do that. You can just change it when you download it, and it's already ready to go for both of those other lot types. But I did have some extra room, so I thought it would be cute to add some playground equipment in the back, thinking that if there was somebody who came and had a little snack at the food stalls, they might have their kids with them and want to sit down outside to eat and let the kids play in the backyard. Or if there was a mom that had come with her child, to the book club or whatever it was, and her kid was just really kind of out of control, needed to blow off some steam, she could then take them outside. I added some benches so that the moms would have a place to sit for that, or the parents, that could be dads too. But I have 2 benches there, and then at the end I go back in and I add a couple more on the other side, just for symmetry purposes. So now, after all of that, I'm actually finally getting to the library part of the library. So I didn't want to put a whole bunch of desks and bookcases up against the windows because that completely defeats the purpose of having windows for the view. So instead I did these cute little sitting areas so that you had a place that you could sit to read a book, or you could sit and have a very quiet conversation. I figured that that's something I've seen in a lot of libraries, is that they kind of line the walls with chairs and sofas so that you've got somewhere comfortable to sit. So I did use those same chairs and sofa that I had from in the main cafe area, so that just kind of made sense to me. And creating some lighting there so that everybody would have something to read by. And then I'm adding the main part in the center. So I had desks for a couple of different purposes. There are, I think it's 8 total desks, and with those, half of them have a computer at them, and half of them don't. I know that a lot of people like to work on the computer at the library, so I wanted to have plenty of those available, but I didn't want there to be a computer at all of the desks, because if someone was coming to do some homework, or if they were writing something down in their journal, they would need to have an open desk space to do that. So I did kind of half and half with that, and as I was kind of placing the desks and figuring out which ones would be the computers and which ones would not, I actually set it up so that the computer desks face away from the windows, because I figure you don't need the great view if you're glued to a screen, but the ones that are for writing, that you might want to have the view for those, and so those are the ones that let you look out at the windows. So they've all got the same little lamp on them, and they've all got some clutter items as well. I added some books here and there for some of them, and then also little pencil cups on the writing desks. So just a little something to give it a little extra look to it. I figured that those would be kind of in general items that you would find in the library, nothing too personalized because it's a public space. So that's what I did in there, and here I am just kind of double checking everything to make sure it works well. I've got some speakers that I'm adding into the cafe area so that they would play some good cafe music. Thinking through, again, like I said, those clutter items, and really just trying to make it kind of feel at home. I love libraries personally. I actually at the moment have spent quite a bit of time in libraries. I think I've mentioned before that I'm currently finishing my 2nd graduate degree right now, and I'm constantly going to the library for things. So I feel like this was definitely something I was familiar with and prepared to build. So, and then I changed it so that it had, so that we were in nighttime, so that I could go back in and add all of the lighting and make sure that it looked good. I definitely wanted some good outdoors lighting. I wasn't quite sure where I was going to place it. At first, I had everything kind of pulled out like you see it, and then I wound up tucking it in closer to the building, which I thought gave it a little bit of a better feel. This, at the moment, with those little stalls and the lighting away from the building, it kind of felt a little Disney, if that makes sense. Not that that's a bad thing. I love Disney World. That's just not what I wanted my library to feel like. So, and this was actually kind of hard figuring out where to place lighting on the outside patio area that was not kind of obtrusive. And those little pole lights that I had, actually I'd never used them before, and I really liked them. I thought that they worked very well in the space. And I do have different ceiling lights in the cafe and in the library. I wanted the cafe to have kind of like big, bright, fun, that's where all the action is. And then I wanted the lighting in the library to be a bit more traditional and subdued. So I did use the chandeliers with candles there. And so the effect is that we've got a big bright room up front and then a little bit of a kind of warmer lighting feel in the actual library itself. And I went back and forth a couple of times with what lights to use in the bathrooms, but eventually I did find something that I liked. And so, yeah, here you see me kind of tucking things back up into the building, and that worked really well. I also have a couple of trash cans. There are a few of them on the little patio area, and there's one just off of the patio area. I don't think I put any on the inside of the build itself, but anyway. And so now I'm adding some salt and pepper shakers, which I then immediately took back off of the tables. What I really wanted was some flowers, and I wasn't seeing them in the clutter menu. And then it occurred to me, why don't I just search for a vase? And there they were. So there are cute little flowers on all of the tables, both inside and outside, which is just, adds a little extra touch and a little color in this build that's already kind of black and white and neutral. And then I also added a few items like a little Kleenex box. I think I added a magazine here. And then when I actually went into play mode, the magazine just disappeared. So I did not try to replace that for the upload. So the magazine is gone. The roof gave me a little bit of a challenge. I did want to have an overhang, so that there was some kind of awning or roofing that went over the top of the patio so that it could be a covered patio. And everything I tried, it didn't work right. I could not get the roof to line up. It kept having, you can see there on the corner, they cross over weird. And no matter how many times I played with it, I couldn't figure out how to make it not do that. So I wound up having an uncovered front, which was fine. And it gave me the opportunity to put a sign in that little space on top of the roof. That would be like the name of the library. So you'll see that in the final look that I wind up with. And I was happy with that in the end. It wasn't what I had planned, but it wound up being just fine. So that is what you see there. And that is really our library. I'll go around real quick, adding some things on the ground, some greenery items. I wound up using the terrain paint to make it kind of have a stone look almost around the entire building. I had wanted to put some hedges on the other side of the building that doesn't have anything on it currently, but where it was situated on the lot, I didn't have enough space. There's only one square of the grid left over there, and I needed more. So then I said, you know what, don't worry about it. Let me just go ahead and paint that. That'll be fine. And so that looked okay, I thought. And then I did add a little fountain there just so that we would have some visual curb appeal to create kind of a nice little environment there next to our food stalls, almost like a little entryway into this little food stall area, and some cute little greenery there on either side of each of those poles just to add to the overall look. I did keep the backyard area with grass because that is where the kids are playing, obviously. Want to make sure that that's not stone. It's not edged or anything like that. I didn't feel bad about that. I had the little bushes on either side that kind of covered where it ends, so that felt fine to me. So, that is what it looks like. Here I am kind of going through the lights just to make sure it looks good with all of the various different lighting pieces. Adding a few additional little knickknacks here and there, some things on the counter for the barista, for us to have a realistic looking little coffee shop. I had some plates, I added the teas, I also put a little mug rack for coffee mugs and that little hot chocolate stuff in the corner. I added this sign out front. That way, if you did use this as a cafe, you'd have a sign out front. But also I figure, if this is a community area, they probably would have a sign that would kind of highlight what was going on so that the people walking by would know what was happening at the library. And here I am putting in those chess tables like I mentioned, so that we could have people outside having conversations and coffee and whatnot, or they could be outside playing chess. We have both options. And then I am finally switching it over to library for the upload. I had to give some real thought to what I wanted the traits to be. I wound up, fast internet made a lot of sense to me for the library, but then I kind of struggled on what I wanted to be next because I didn't really need it to be, good for building skills for toddlers because it's mostly for adults, even though there are some toddlers. Didn't need it to be in the good schools or the good home studio, so I wound up with convivial, and then the other one was sunny aspect, just so that people were, in general, in a good mood. So here is our library. I hope that you like the way it looks. It's very, very different from anything I have built before, but I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. So again, y'all gotta forgive me. I'm still learning the best way to drive the camera, so hopefully this makes sense to y'all as you're taking a look. But you definitely can see a lot of Sims around and about using the space. So I've got the little food stalls here. A few of them have opened up for the day, it looks like. And that looks really fun. And then we've also got the backyard area so that you can see what the playground looks like. Nobody's playing at the moment, but that's okay. We've got the ball pit and the slide and some monkey bars there so that if somebody wanted to play, a toddler or a child, we've got equipment for both. And that's just kind of cute back there. And then I kind of move on inside. I didn't want to give away the library. I wanted to start off with the little shopping area in the front, the little cafe. So you can see that I do have this sim that I am controlling right now is inside working on that mural, so you can get an idea of what that looks like as if you were to download this from the gallery. That's kind of what the look would be. And I'm trying so hard to get an angle here for a walk-in. I apologize. It's like, y'all are probably like, what are we doing here? It's just back and forth. We're not actually doing anything. I did have Irrelevant Sims recommended a tutorial for me to watch from Sim Supply. So that is on my to-do list. Hopefully that will help me figure this out a little better. But here is a Sim's eye view of what our little space looks like. You've got that fun kind of cafe area in the front. I just love the way that the light is hitting everything in there. I think it's sunset right now. Yeah, it's almost 7 o'clock in sim time. And so it just kind of looks really nice. You can also see that fantastic view out the windows. That is that lovely tree and the little waterway and all of the flowers. And so that's just kind of a really fun thing to do. I would definitely recommend thinking about where you place this lot if you want to use it so that you take advantage of all those great windows. But you've got the fun little sitting area there. And then also we go into the little kids area so that you can see there's the little doctor's kit and the tree house and some blocks and of course a little bookshelf. The librarian's recommendations are there on the table as you walk in, so you can check those out as you are heading into the main library. Looks like someone's headed in right now, and she's taking a book from the children's library. Well, that's just fine. You go right on ahead. And then we kind of move around and take a look at the barista area so that you can see what that looks like too. If I can get the camera all turned around here. I love how you can also see what's happening like outside. There's all of those people who are outside playing chess or who are enjoying a drink outside. You can see out there too. So there's the little barista area. We've got our little pastries counter as well as a couple of additional tables. Looks like my sim has aged up or has made his painting skill go up. But he's just working away on the mural there, and that's kind of fun too, to be able to have that available for a sim if they were so inclined to do some public art there. Again, I love the way the light looks on those tables. Like, can you just see the shadows? It just looks so realistic. I mean, well done, team, for that work. The Sims team just amazes me constantly. So that's our little cafe area, and you can see the speakers are there. So that's definitely something that they can listen to. And then we head on into the actual library itself. So, there's, the community bulletin board outside. I forgot to mention that. So you can head on into the library. It's got this brick wall, which helps with sound, and there's just the one doorway, and hopefully it's really thick glass so that it's nice and quiet once you get in there. And then there is everybody hard at work, especially on those computers. But they are able to enjoy these little study desks so that they can use the computers or sit and write whatever it is that they're needing to do that day. We've got those fantastic bookcases. I love the look that they have. They're so tall. It just really is a nice look. And then you can see where the bathrooms are in the back over there, and those shorter bookcases and the pieces of artwork that are hanging up there. You've got the vending machine kind of tucked away in the corner in the back there. And that's kind of where this is at. So I hope that you have enjoyed watching this build. It definitely was a challenge for me, really different from any build that I have done before. I'm trying to get in here to show y'all the bathroom, which they're so tiny that the camera just does not work well. So I wound up doing kind of a bird's eye view so you could see that. You can see from the outside the posters, but of course there's the wall for privacy. And then you can kind of take a bird's eye view look to see what all's inside. That also gives you a great view of the library itself so that you can see all that fun stuff hanging up above the bookcases while people are hard at work on their various different tasks. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video and this speed build. I hope that you are able to download this from the gallery. My name on there is CuteCoffeeGal, and this is listed. There's no CC in any of this, and so you should be able to find it pretty easily on the gallery. It does require items from several different packs, but that's, part of the fun of having all the packs is getting to use them. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you're having a great day and that you will join me back on my channel for some more videos very soon. I know that the big news today is that we did have Cats and Dogs is releasing tomorrow, and unfortunately I am out of town. So it will be a couple of days before you see any Cats and Dogs on my channel, but I will be getting to that very soon. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, y'all. Please give it a big thumbs up, and I hope that you'll consider subscribing. Have a great day, y'all.